Meanwhile, as we heard from Alex there, Conservative Party lawmakers could reportedly try to oust Prime Minister Liz Truss later this week. More than 100 Tory MPs have reportedly submitted or are ready to submit letters of no confidence to Graham Brady MP. He's the head of the 1922 Committee of Backbench Conservative MPs. Multiple media reports say that the MPs will urge Brady to tell Truss that her time is up or to change the Conservative Party rules to allow an immediate vote of confidence in her leadership. Truss is fighting for her political survival after ditching key parts of her economic programme. Her party has also fallen way behind the opposition Labour Party in opinion polls here in the UK. So, if Liz Truss is pushed out, who would be the potential candidates to succeed her as the Conservatives and the UK's fifth Prime Minister since the 2016 Brexit referendum and the third since Boris Johnson's massive election victory just back in 2019? Well, Rishi Sunak, who is the Indian origin MP who lost to Liz Truss in the final round of the race for the Tory leadership, he remains a top choice for several party MPs. In August, Rishi Sunak criticised Truss's economic strategy, claiming it would lead to misery for millions. There's also Ben Wallace, the UK Defence Secretary. Now, he decided not to run for leader in the summer, despite getting signals of some pretty significant grassroots backing. There's also the leader of the House of Commons, Penny Mordaunt. She's another name that you are hearing bandied around inside Westminster behind closed doors at the moment. And then, of course, there is Boris Johnson, the former UK Prime Minister, who led the Conservative Party to a resounding win in 2019. He, of course, was forced to step down after the Partygate scandal and then mass resignations from within his own cabinet. Well, for more on this, let's cross to Dr. Nigel Fletcher, who's a political historian at King's College London, and he's joining us live. Dr. Fletcher, could you just explain to us the rules of the 1922 committee and how this push to try and get Liz Truss out of office could be very, very different to what we saw just months ago with Boris Johnson?
Yes, good afternoon. It is different to what we saw a few months ago, not least because with a leader who is only recently in office, they normally have a year's immunity from the no confidence procedure that we're familiar with, increasingly familiar with now, of letters being submitted to Graham Brady calling for a vote. Normally, they're not able to do that for the first year that the leader is in office. And so in order to get over that, there would need to be a change in the rules to allow a contest to take place, if that's the way Conservative MPs want to go. Graham Brady has said previously, when issues came up, for example, after Boris Johnson won the leadership no confidence vote that was called earlier this year, when he had a year's immunity, Graham Brady had said previously that if it got to the point where he had so many letters coming in that a majority of the parliamentary party were against the Prime Minister, he would go and have a word with them and say, look, you don't have the confidence of the parliamentary party. So I think that the rules obviously are set out, say that can't happen. In reality, if the political will is there and the parliamentary party demonstrably has no confidence in the Prime Minister, then Graham Brady, acting as their spokesperson, would go to the Prime Minister and tell them that. And so we would expect to see that happen, and the Prime Minister then being advised to resign. If she didn't, then I think we would then have to look at the option. They would have to change the rules, and then they'd have to go through a no confidence vote, at which point she would be forced out.
So Graham Brady, of course, being the chairman of the Backbench Conservative MPs Committee, the 1922 Committee. What do you see Liz Truss having to do in the next few days, perhaps, in order to try to shore up her support amongst her own MPs?
Well, it's very difficult to see how she can recover the sort of confidence that she would need to convince MPs that she's the person to take this forward. As we've heard, her entire economic plan, not just the one that was set out at the budget, but of course that was based on her pitch to the Conservative Party members. So her entire platform was based around this plan of cutting taxes and of borrowing in order to pay for it. As you pointed out, Rishi Sunak had said during the leadership election that he thought that would be disastrous. He thought that was the wrong thing to do, and he offered quite a harsh critique of that policy. You can say that he actually has been proved in that correct, and that's what a lot of MPs are saying, and which is why he's being talked up as being a potential replacement. In order for her to recover credibility, I think what she's doing now is trying to demonstrate that she's able to be flexible, to put it mildly, by committing these sorts of changes. And in fact, we've seen messages going out in the last hour or so from her and from the party leadership saying they've had to adjust their plan. Well, this is not an adjustment. This is a complete reversal of the entire platform on which Liz Truss stood for being leader. So the idea that this afternoon in Parliament she can sit there alongside her new Chancellor whilst he completely dismantles her entire economic platform and nodding along to that is very difficult. It does look as though she is, as the phrase goes, in office but not in power. She doesn't have any part of her platform on the economic front still in place. Even the thing that she talked about most in the last few weeks on the energy price freeze, that's now been to some extent dismantled as well and being limited to only the next 6 months. So there's almost nothing left of what she stood for and what she put in that mini budget alongside her now former Chancellor. So it's very difficult to see what she can do. The only thing I suppose she can do is to say that all of the main decisions now are being taken by her Chancellor, and she will focus on sort of steering the ship as a sort of as someone put it over the weekend, as the chairman of the board rather than as an executive. But that's not really how politics works. People expect the Prime Minister to be the one in charge.